In this video, I'm going to continue to uh, introduce you to Vadere, which I think that's how you pronounce it. But that's what I'm going to call it, and so that's all you hear me refer to it. Uh, in the last video, I basically was working off of this scenario. It's a fairly simple scenario, and just kind of working off an assumption here that um, uh, as we design these rooms, that that we have a space that is essentially a 10 by 10 room that people can move through. But obviously we're not going to just be working with 10 by 10 rooms. We need to have much larger rooms than this. And so I'm going to show you how to design a room that's much larger and to show you also how to set up having multiple types of, not types, but multiple groupings of these source nodes for generating or spawning people so that they can move to different parts of rooms. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I started let me actually show you how to do this. I'm going to create another scenario and then we will work with that, and I'll show you a number of different things on how to design a room. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to create multiple rooms, and we'll do that with the design editor. So this room here is a 10 by 10 room. I'm assuming like each one of these grid items here is essentially a foot. And given the scale at which the simulation is drawn, I think it's probably reasonable sizing of a room, or at least of this space, or the standard, or this assumption of the size of the spaces, and we'll just kind of work off of that as our core assumption on the layout of these topologies. First thing I want to be able to do, of course, I want to be able to extend the size of the room, and so this is width and height, and I'm going to extend the width of this room so that it's let's say a 40 foot width, and let's say a 15-foot height. And as I do that, this will create this new workspace for me. And again, I want to emphasize here that this is the simulated space, and we're not necessarily going to get to perfect models of the rooms or anything like that, but they're going to be reasonable approximations. All right, so now that I have a scenario topology, a room size of 40 by 15, I'm going to put some walls in here to create multiple rooms rather than just having a single large room. And this would, again, we saw this in the last video. This is what this tool is. I have played around with convex hull and simple polygon, but I find that the easiest thing to use is the rectangle to just create walls, and that's what I'm going to do here. Given that, let's see, that I've got probably, my grid resolutions are probably 40 of these little grids going straight across. I'm going to create I'm going to create 3 rooms of roughly 10 by 10 on this space. So I need to, let's see, if I zoom in, trying to get that grid to line up at, there we go. The grid resolution here is 10 by 10. That makes it actually a little easier for me to decide where I'm going to put these walls. Sorry, trying to design this on the fly. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw the walls where I think they ought to go, and I'm going to make them 1 by 1 walls, and just drop them in here. And I'm going to put a few of these in. I'm going to put 2 of these walls in. one there. Actually, I'll put three of these walls in. Okay. So one of the things to note when you're designing these and when you're dropping these walls in, for instance, you do need to make sure that you don't have these little gaps in this space. And it's interesting, if you don't, then the simulants will try to go through those walls if they're part of that shortest path, and clearly we don't want that. So all right, so I'm going to put those walls in to this room. Oops, sorry. I need to zoom in to get a better view of that. Okay, all right. So there we go. We've got 3 walls now in this room, and I need to actually turn these into rooms. So I'm going to put some other walls into place here, and here and here, and have just an entryway on the ends of these rooms. So let me go ahead and do that. And so I'll just draw a wall here that extends. Oops. Try that again. Draw a wall, starts on this end, and have it extend over here. I think that doors are roughly, what, 3 feet? I think that's right. I'm going to say 2.5 feet. Or do I have 1, 2, 3 feet? Okay, I have it as 3 feet, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. So one of the things that's kind of unfortunate about this system is I can't just like click on something and copy and paste it into another part. I wish I could do that, or if I can do that, I don't know how to do it. I guess this is a better statement. Anyway, so let me go ahead and replicate this here as well. Why? Okay. I need to extend that all the way to the end. All right. One of the things I showed in the last video is that you can do this merger of these spaces using this button here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and merge those 2. And I need to create 2 more of these. So let me go do that. All right. And I'm just going to bump this wall over just slightly. I don't know that I need to have them to be perfect like that, but that's a little bit of insight into my level of OCD-ness, I guess. All right, so the last one. And did I just create a word? Is OCD-ness actually? Is that actually a word? All right, so here we go. I've got 3 rooms now that have walls, and what I'm going to do is I am going to create and just put multiple targets, multiple sources in these rooms, and then I'll have an exit that's on this end over here. So easy enough to create. So the way this works, okay, like we saw in that last video, I just click on source. Circle is the easiest one to do just because it's just you can set the source in the of the simulants, from localized to a certain spot on the floor. However, there is this other piece here of a rectangle, so I can create the source of all the people being, within the entire space of this room. The reason that is actually interesting is then I can do a random setting of having people generated within this space rather than everyone coming from a particular spot. That's probably something we want to discuss as we're looking at how to design each of these simulations. But anyway, so let me do it multiple ways. I'm going to create, the rectangle there for that person. Let's see, I've never used simple polygon before. I'm not even exactly sure what it does. Okay, I don't know how to use that, so I'm just gonna go back to let me just do a circle there. All right, and then I need to set a target spot for these folks. I'm gonna put that in this corner, so people have to flow out of these rooms, and then they'll have to go to this spot in the floor. So anyway, so I have that now, and if you recall from the last video, we have some configuration to do here. I need to set, for instance, IDs that aren't negative. And the reason for this is I want to be able to specifically refer to these source spots, and we'll see reasons for that later. But I'm just going to go ahead and do that here. This one is going to be number 3. And this one is number 4. All right. And then we have to set the spawn numbers here. And I'm going to set this room to spawn 5 people. And we'll just do that instantaneously. But for this one, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait 2 seconds. And then have it spawn for a second. I'm going to have this spawn 3 people. And then this one will spawn 5. And we'll wait 3 seconds for that one to go. And they're all going to go to the target area 4. So I need to set that here. Target ID 4. And if you don't recall this from the last video, target ID 4, this is, so I named this one, this ID is 4. And so this target ID says, you know, when you spawn somebody out of this room, out of this source area, send them to target 4. Or sorry, to target labeled number 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this simulation. So I'm going to go over here and select on multiple rooms. Oh, I didn't set a model yet. Okay, silly me. You have to go to model and select which template. And I'm going to again use this optimal steps model as the movement model. And now I'm going to run it. There they go. Okay. Oh, I didn't, I'm going to go ahead and stop the scenario. I should have also reset this down to something much smaller. 50. Okay. Run it again. Okay. All right. Good. So now we're able to, let's go ahead and look at the playback on this. So a couple of things to notice here. If you look here at how it's, because we didn't do a random setting of the simulant starting in this room, it just clumped them all into one spot of the room, which, you know, that's probably not the best model to use. And so we're going to have to go back and modify that. Let's see what happens when we actually run this. So these guys started out first, and you see there's sort of like the staggering of when they're moving out of the rooms. And I imagine that there's probably some things that we can do in modeling with that in regards to, you know, when do we release rooms? Are there set times? And maybe we're looking at 2-minute delays or 1-minute delays or whatever that might be. And so that is something for us to consider. I'm still trying to figure out some of the things in regards to how do we consider the start time and end times, and how do they fit into the simulated time and whatnot. So we'll certainly get there. All right. So anyway, so that's what happens when you create multiple rooms, and that's how to basically do it. Again, you know, as we go through this task of designing these simulations, we're probably going to have to create rough drawings of the various room spaces that we're working with, and probably focus on just some specific spaces, because I don't think we'll be able to model the entire campus. That's probably more of an effort than we want, although I am going to get some help to make that happen from some students. But I think that there's other things that we'll want to focus our time on. But these simulations, I think, are going to give us a sense of how to deal with certain spaces, certain congested spaces. And I will show you some other tools that are available to help us sort that out. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to stop this video here, and I will create another video because I want to show what happens when I do some configuration of these targets and these sources, and how to make sense of that. So anyway, thank you for listening, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks.